those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
It's time to hit the pick. Touchdown! Sports betting, fantasy football, and the latest NFL news. Featuring Loud Esmond and Christian Giordani. Bet on us to make you a better bettor.
What?
It's time to hit the pick.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your host, Christian Giordani. Alongside me, we have Loud Esmond and one of the hottest hands in betting. We have David Delano. Fellas, how you doing this day?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Loud, how you doing?
I'm okay. This time of year is always a little depressing for me. There's, football is on its way out. There's one game left, and it's going to suck. So I'm not really excited about it, and it's just kind of like meh. So NHL, Major Arena Soccer League, indoor soccer, Major Arena Soccer League's got about a month and a half to go, and then they're into the playoffs. Looks like the hometown favorite of mine, the Empire Strikers, is going to make it to the playoffs this year. We'll see how they do. But, I'm not a college basketball guy. I'm not an NBA guy. So there's really only one sport for me to be picking this time of year. So I'm not really the guy to talk about on this show today. David Delano joining us. David, you are a fantastic college basketball and NBA picker, although Sniper West right now is on fire. I think he's something like 16-2 in his college in his NBA bets.
Yeah, he's been killing it in the NBA, which is tough. I mean, NBA drives me crazy, honestly, more than any other sport, because the injury report so many times. I mean, we get these picks out in advance for people, and a lot of these times you find out 90 minutes before tip-off that somebody's not playing. It makes it really difficult to handicap, but hats off to him. He's figured it out.
One of my favorite TV shows from back in the 90s was The Shield with Michael Chiklis. And one of my favorite episodes, they caught up with this, and they were raiding a drug house, and there was an NBA player there because he knew the guy from back in the day. They were friends in Compton, and the police were like, okay, NBA dude, here's what we're going to do. You're going to turn off your cell phone, and you're not going to tell anybody that you're not coming to the Lakers game tonight. And they went and put a massive bet on the Lakers because he was the star player on the other team and wasn't going to play. And that was the exchange. We're not going to get your name out in the press. Nobody's going to know you were here when this bus went down, but we're going to keep you out of the game. The NBA is having a problem with gambling right now. There was another scandal that just popped up where there was another player that looks like that was point shaving and involved in basically shaving his own prop bets in terms of how many points he was going to score. Troy Aikman earlier this week had some very pointed comments about the NFL having to fix its officiating problems because there's so much money on the line now. Back when gambling wasn't legal or was only legal in Vegas on sports betting, if a few guys in Vegas got burned, it was one thing, but now it's the whole country getting burned when these bad calls happen. And I thought they wouldn't be as bad in the Kansas City playoff game against the Bills, but they were. I mean, it just keeps happening, David. Is the betting public right to be cynical at this point?
I mean, they are, because for so long they talked about gambling like it's the worst thing. And I was watching the game last night between the Houston Rockets and Memphis Grizzlies, and you can pick any NBA game that's on national TV now, and they're telling you middle of the third quarter, Memphis was a 4.5-point favorite. They're like, now over on FanDuel, the live odds, it's plus 1.5. And then they go to the guys in the studio. What do you think right now? So every game they're doing that. They have guys giving out everything is either underdog or prize picks or daily fantasy or the lines and changing. And the league is pushing this, not just guys like us. They're saying this during the broadcast.
During games. Yeah.
So I understand. I'm not sure if they made that push yet, but I was even hearing about different places in the NBA making it more accessible to live bet during the game. So yeah, of course people are going to be cynical. And when you see the stats that are so lopsided, I think I saw like roughing the passer penalties in the playoffs so far. I think that 6 have gone in the Chiefs' favor. None have gone the other way. It's tough when you see that much of a discrepancy.
Well, and let's be clear: the Buffalo Bills Kansas City Chiefs game turned in Kansas City's favor based on a bad call. Josh Allen gained the first down on that QB sneak. And what makes it stink even worse is they have the play and they go to commercial before there's a call on the field. There was never a call on the field before they went to commercial. And when they came back, they just said, oh, he didn't get the first down. Chiefs ball. And the Chiefs were already lining up on offense. And it's like, what? That didn't get reviewed? That there was no call on the field? What the hell? Because whatever the call on the field was, it was going to be nearly impossible to overturn. And so if they had said first down, it would have been a first down. But instead, they made no call at all, and then you come back from commercial, and the Chiefs' offense is on the field. I mean, that just looks terrible on top of it being wrong, because later when you see the replays, it's obvious he got the first down. And I understand bad calls happen, but this is happening too much, isn't it, Christian?
Yes, and this is one thing I wanted to ask both of you. Going on, should these calls be taken out of the officiant's hands and put into technology? In tennis, we can see if the ball's out of the line by a millimeter. Why can't we put that technology in a football and a first down marker?
We're
still running changes.
In the UFL, they have.
Exactly. We're still running chains and first down markers in the year
judgment calls.
Exactly.
Right. It's a judgment call. No. Those are, man, the human element is important, but also you've got to get it right, David?
Yeah, and I think the tough sell to everyone, and I'm starting to believe it too. I mean, one of the reasons I, picked the Chiefs last week, not so much that I wanted them to win, but it's tough to feel like this team's going to lose if the game is close. And even with everything, sometimes you get bad calls, people don't really mind as long as you call it both ways. Sometimes they're a little more aggressive, a little more conservative with what they let happen. But right now, it's seeming like everything is going the Chiefs' way. It's not really evening out. And it's just kind of crazy where you see how many times can something go in a team's favor every single time.
And then there was another pivotal play in that game where it was a contested catch down by the goal line. The Chiefs receiver and the Bills defensive back both looked like they had some possession of the ball, and they awarded the ball to the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs run a play, and then you're watching the replay, and the ball hit the ground. It wasn't a catch for anybody. And they didn't get that reviewed before come on. And I know Scott Steen would lose his mind. And I know that, my friend Dr. Curry Myers, another Kansas City Chiefs fan, would lose their mind and say, oh, you're a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists. Maybe they're just, as Scott would say, well, maybe they're just a more disciplined, better team. Bull crap. This is like Tom Brady now. Tom Brady got every call. The Patriots got every freaking call. And that certainly helps. I mean, I'm not saying the Chiefs are a bad team. They're a great team. But boy, they've benefited from a lot of bad calls.
Well, we haven't seen a lot of blowouts. Normally when you see a team, a great team, there's usually just similar to how what the Eagles just did to the Commanders. You usually see some blowouts like that along the way. And it's every single game for the Chiefs has been, relatively close. They didn't really need the calls as much in the Houston game, but it still wasn't a blowout. So it's just hard to, when you see a team, even both of their Super Bowl wins by 3 points, they're not, like the old Dallas Cowboys or some of these old Super Bowls where we're seeing teams win by 20 points or more, or old 49ers teams. So whenever it's just a one-score game like that, you can look at those calls, and they're all been one play decided, it seems.
Well, and remember what I said on the show before that game. I said the question is, does the voodoo run out or does the voodoo keep going? And the voodoo kept going. And now going into the Super Bowl, one of the things that really sort of makes me not that interested in this game is the feeling that I have that no matter how well Philadelphia plays, it's going to go Kansas City's way because of the refs.
I can't
absolutely.
Right?
I can't disagree with you.
Yeah, you feel like, if you feel like you're betting against Kansas City, you feel like you're betting against the devil. There's always a trick under their sleeve, and you're going to trip over your own shoelaces.
Yeah, it seems like in the middle of the Patriots run, it just seemed like the NFL was on their side. It does seem that way. It seems in the NFL that there are certain teams that get favored by the refs and certain teams that get hammered by the refs. Like the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders never get a call. I mean, it's like the entire never. It always goes against them. And like the Chiefs, it always goes their way. I mean, it's this thing where I would love to be excited about a Super Bowl. But honestly, looking at what we've had recently, Kansas City, Philadelphia this year. All right, my feeling about this game is meh. Because, Kansas City's going to win. That is what probably everybody's feeling is. It's just like, well, Kansas City's going to win because the NFL and the refs are going to make sure that they do. Kansas City, San Francisco. I was excited to see the 49ers beat them. Went the wrong way for me. Kansas City, Philadelphia won. Good game. Kansas City won. Tampa Bay, Kansas City. There was nobody in that game I liked. I can't stand Tom Brady. I couldn't stand Patrick Mahomes. New England versus the Rams. Terrible, boring Super Bowl. 13-3. And then in between that, you had Kansas City in there again, beating San Francisco. Then you had Philadelphia and New England. Philadelphia won. High-scoring game, exciting. But again, Philadelphia and New England, who cares? And then you're all the way back to Denver and Peyton Manning, 24-10 over Carolina, before you get two teams that in the game that aren't some version of Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Kansas City.
Well, let's not forget 2021 Rams versus Bengals.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an anomaly, obviously, with the Bengals, but that's pretty much the only outlier there. Yeah, but I feel the same with this particular Super Bowl. Not so much just because I think Kansas City is going to win. I wanted to just kind of see. I would have liked to have seen I know the Lions got put out early, but I would have loved to have seen the Lions and the Bills personally. Just having Detroit, who's never been to a Super Bowl, going up against, the team that lost 4 straight Super Bowls, almost in the, 2 historic franchises, and fan bases who have suffered so much. I would have loved to have seen that, but or at least one.
We actually had a good run, 2009, 2010, 2011. You had Pittsburgh, Arizona, New Orleans, Indianapolis, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. those were 3 years where there was no Kansas City, no New England, no San Francisco, or no Philadelphia. But other than that, you go forward after those games, and it's some version of Kansas City, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and the Patriots.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Tampa Bay. Which
Well, Tom Brady, basically.
It's
yeah.
because it's Tom Brady. So, you know, I'm over this Super Bowl, but let's go ahead and talk about it. Anything on the line early and movement, or anything that you're seeing, Dave, that is remarkable or interesting so far?
Well, one thing that I think that I've already bet personally, when we look at this game, and people are going to talk about this for the next week plus, but there's so many different things you can say, but you pretty much said loud everything need to be being said. This almost is a toss-up game that you feel like the Chiefs are going to win. But the one thing is, you know, the Chiefs, they haven't been winning by margin. So I'm looking at this right now. I don't really like to do a lot of same game teasers during the regular season, but in the Super Bowl, especially when the Chiefs are involved, they've been a really good idea. So I'm looking at this 1.5 point underdog that the Eagles are, and I recommend teasing at about 6.5 points and getting the Eagles at +8. And then also teasing that total down from 49.5 to 43, because I think that this game probably goes over. But, you know, if we get it down to 43, I don't see how this game goes below 44 points. So I'm recommending that you tease the total to 43 and go over, and also tease the Eagles +8, because I don't see the Eagles losing by more than a touchdown. And if this swings, I mean, you could probably do it either way. It's just getting the 1.5. I think this is going to be decided probably by 6 points either way. But
so let's talk about how to bet this game, and I like where you're going. And a thing that I like to do is to stack a bunch of sure thing in my mind things on a parlay, and then add a couple of things that really will then boost the value, because you've got like a 6-leg parlay going, right? So I think Saquon Barkley for an anytime touchdown, Saquon Barkley over 125 yards rushing, Jalen Hurts at least 1 passing touchdown. You know, you can start throwing some of those things in there, and then do a couple of those teasers. And then when you've got a 4, 5, 6-leg parlay, all of a sudden you've got something that if you did any of those bets individually, there's not a lot of money to be made, but you stack them all up, and now maybe you've got 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 odds, right?
yeah, and maybe I'm overthinking it. I haven't bet any of those props yet, but that Saquon Barkley over 125 rushing yards, the way he's been going, it seems like it should be easy money, but it almost worries me a little bit if he gets off to a slow start, and the Chiefs do have a good game plan of focusing on him, and the Eagles have to go to the air. I mean, that's still a lot of rushing yards. I mean, for that 125. But the thing about that prop still is, if you like it, you probably still need to get on it sooner than later, because I think that there's not going to be that many under bettors, and I think that a lot of these props are going to go up. So even though it's 125 now, if you like the under, probably wait, because I wouldn't be surprised if that gets closer to 130, because I don't think there's going to be too many people. Even though I have some concerns about it, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people rushing to bet on the under. And even myself, I'm a little nervous about the over, but I don't really want to bet the under.
Kansas City on the season average has given up 106.7 yards per game, but in the playoffs, where they are facing better teams, they've given up 151 yards per game. They gave up 147 in the last game, rushing to the Bills.
And I don't remember the stats, but I think Joe Mixon had a pretty good game against them.
Yes,
too.
Joe Mixon had a very good game against them. And so the way I'm thinking about that Barkley 125, he needs one 50-yard touchdown and he's over. Right? And has he not almost in every game recently gotten at least one breakaway touchdown?
Because to comment on that, yeah.
And
Yeah, he's got a 70.
If he gets past, see ya.
Yeah, every game this postseason, he has had a 70+ rushing play.
That is insane.
And the one thing I do want to say going into the Super Bowl, we're talking about, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and, their defense. I want to say Saquon Barkley going into this game is hands down the best player. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. No, and that's the way I see this game is Saquon Barkley has to beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
I completely agree.
Well, yeah, if he gets that, if he goes under that rushing total, we should say.
If he's under, they lose.
Ain't winning.
No, so the way you would stack your bet, the way you would strategize is start with deciding who you think is going to win and by how much. And then every bet after that should mirror that. So if you think Philadelphia is going to score 24 to 28 points and keep it close, then the only way they do that is Saquon Barkley. So you see how you would stack the team total points plus Saquon Barkley's rushing yards, plus Jalen Hurts throwing at least a touchdown, plus the receiver on the Eagles,
AJ Brown,
getting at least one touchdown. You see how you would stack that as a strategy, right?
I think Jalen Hurts probably getting a touchdown, is rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
possible. Yeah, that is a possibility as well. So that's the way that I would approach betting the Super Bowl. If you want to have an opportunity to really make some money, you're gonna have to put together a stacked parlay of some sort. Is the way I think you would have to do it. And you would start from the perspective of, okay, who do I think is going to win and by how much? And then back it out from there. Speaking of who we think is going to win the Super Bowl right now as we sit here today, Chiefs.
Yeah, I wouldn't go against the Chiefs. I'd have to say just straight up. I know I talked about I think the Chiefs are gonna win. I don't see them blowing out the Eagles, but it's probably gonna come down to just feel like if Pat Mahomes gets the ball within 6 points with at least 2 minutes left, maybe just a minute left, you feel like the Chiefs are gonna win the game.
Then a defensive end brushes his face mask on 4th down and they get a first down. That's what's gonna happen. Is they will be 3 points, they'll be 5 points behind with a minute 30 left, and they will be at 4th down at the 40-yard line. Mahomes will throw a duck that gets intercepted, and it will be called back because somebody touched his face mask. It'll be 15 yards and a first down, and 3 plays later, they'll score a touchdown to go ahead. And that'll be the end of the game. That's the way this is going to go down because the Chiefs are owned by Satan.
It's interesting that controversial. You talk about a controversial interception. I mean, the Bengals should have beat the Chiefs earlier this season.
Yep.
In hindsight, I mean, that kept the Bengals out the playoffs.
Yeah, no, and they're the Chiefs' kryptonite. I mean, honestly, I'm sick of the Chiefs. I'm sick of the Eagles. Please, next year, can we see the Bills versus
anyone?
Bills Lions. What a great game that would be. No, so we're getting the Chiefs Eagles. Blah. By the way, Major Arena Soccer League, I've absolutely been just crushing it. I'm something ridiculous like 18-4 on my best bets on the season. So Utica City Football Club against the Texas Outlaws, take Utica City -1.5 in that game all day. That game is on Saturday night. And then the Harrisburg Heat and the St. Louis Ambush don't really love a lot of things except the Ambush over 6.5 goals in that game at +182, which I think is a great bet. Anything on NBA college basketball this weekend? David, you want to get out there?
Oh, yeah. College basketball, still looking at the games, but one of the big games tomorrow, you've got Duke and North Carolina. Obviously, always a big matchup. And, looking at that, I'm kind of leaning North Carolina. Duke is obviously a lot better of a team. But Duke's a 13-point favorite. And just like when these teams play NC State, you kind of throw out the records and the stats when these teams play each other. So I think that 13 points is a bit too much, and like North Carolina. And then one for you here, your Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think home court is so significant in college basketball, but one team that hasn't been doing a very good job of protecting it has been the Miami Hurricanes. They're 7.5. They're a 7-point home favorite, a 7-point home underdog. Notre Dame, a 7-point road favorite. I like Notre Dame in that spot. Miami 0-10 in the ACC. They're basically the worst major conference basketball team. Legendary coach Jim Larranaga resigned during the regular season. They're terrible defensively. Miami's just playing with no heart. I think that Notre Dame is going to show up in that spot. So those are a couple of the bigger games that people may be looking at. That
NFL coaching stuff.
1 minute.
I was very worried about my Saints, but it looks like Kellen Moore is going to be the Saints head coach next year, which I'm excited about. I think that's great. The Raiders getting Pete Carroll. That's a franchise that just needs a steady hand to just get relevant again. So I don't think that's a terrible pick. David, your thoughts on those two quickly in 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, I wonder the thing now I'm looking at is, does Russell Wilson go to the Raiders to reunite with Pete Carroll? And what do the Steelers do next with that? So, yeah, we'll see what Moore does, but I think that that's a good move for both teams. But I'm really interested to see if Pete Carroll gets Russell Wilson to go there.
And how good will the Lions be after they lose both their coordinators next year?
Yeah, and even beyond that, and looking at coordinators, they've had a lot of other assistant coaches, offensive line coach. That gets overlooked a lot. When the line coaches look, that's a lot to lose. I think the Lions are definitely going to take a little bit of a step back.
All right, well, we'll see you next Friday night. We'll call the Super Bowl and nail it.